Ladies and gentlemen,
The most transformative sport event on earth is about to begin.
Those who are in the stadium are on their feet.
It's just a long, niggly climb.
Because it is desperation now. And there it is.
Gold! What a result! Another remarkable athlete about to write another chapter in Paralympic history.
Quiet, please. Hey.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. Each week we share stories from athletes and people behind the scenes to help you have more fun watching the games. I am your host, Jill Jarris, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, how are you?
I have been watching, I feel like you, I've been watching some biathlon and going back because they had world championships and all the different pieces because I missed it originally. So I've been catching up. And I remember how much I love biathlon whenever I watch it.
It sucks you in every time. It really
Every
does.
time. And the fans are so great and the traditions are so wonderful. And I'm just, talk about more cowbell. Oh.
Biathlon, the sport. And I'm sure this happens at alpine skiing too, when you didn't realize how big cowbells could get.
Oh, I know. I am not a very large person, and I realize there is probably a cowbell that is the size of me, and I would like it, and I would like to try to ring it. So if anyone has a 5-foot cowbell hanging around, let me know.
Squad goals. All right.
I could be the little ringer and just stand inside and ring it for you.
Oh, another squad goal we have is thanking all of our Patreon patrons and donors who keep our financial flame alive. This show does have real costs outside of going to the games and podcasting from there to bring you what it's really like to be there. Every year we have a lot of ongoing costs as well. Our patrons and donors really help keep this show going because of that. You can find out more at patreon.com/flamealivepod if you're interested in making sure that our flame stays alive for years to come. Now, Patreon accepts paid members, but it also has free memberships. And we don't always have a lot of content for free members, but this month we're putting up a conversation I had with contributor Ben after watching the movie September 5th, which is about the ABC News coverage of the hostage tragedy at Munich 1972. It's going to be a free episode and give you some insight as to how some of our bonus content works. Again, a free episode going up this month on patreon.com. That's patreon.com/flamealivepod. Now, I am in a hotel room. And contributor Ben is sitting across from me. I just got an evil eye. Oh, producer Ben. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's why you forgot his promotion.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I totally forgot his promotion to producer. Oops.
He's going to put you inside the cowbell.
And ring it while I'm in there to me. So yes, producer Ben and I will have some really cool bonus content going up for everybody who's a member at our Patreon site. You don't have to be paid for that one, but check out that patreon.com/flamealivepod. All right. It is 1 year to go till Milan-Cortina.
I know we had our 1 year to go for Olympic celebration. Now we've got our 1 year to go for Paralympic celebration. And this is great because this gives us a chance to re-experience the Paris Paralympics.
Exactly. And we are welcoming back Canadian boccia player Alison Levine. After coming off a really good season, Alison had a tough Paralympics, placing 5th in the BC4 individual and 4th in the mixed pairs with teammate Julian Chibano. Alison talks with us about those competitions and how bracket design can make or break your tournament, which was a really sad factor here. We also learn about the Lululemon Alison pants, life at the Athletes Village, and how much accessible design can be life-changing for disabled people. Take a listen. Alison Levine, welcome back. Paris 2024, 2 tough tournaments for you. How has it been processing that?
Not gonna lie, it hasn't been easy. When I got back at first, I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to have anything to do with boccia. So I took some time off and got back to training about 2 weeks ago now. We had our Canadian Championships last week. So getting back into the swing of things and starting to feel more like like myself again.
How was the tournament for you?
The tournament was actually really, really good. One of my things is that I wanted to make sure that I came home and I didn't have regrets. I didn't want to say, oh, if only I had done that, or I wish I had done that, or anything of that matter. And I can truly say that even right when I came back and the emotions were really raw, I never felt that. Truly, I did everything that I could have done to perform well, and I did perform well, and I was able to, I guess, represent myself the way I wanted to be seen and represent my country proudly as an athlete with good sportsmanship and all those things that we want to portray on the world stage. And I can say that I 100% did. That crushing moment of finishing fourth, losing bronze in pair play, that sucks because the month prior we had beaten them for gold in Portugal. So it's not a question of, oh, we can't. It's just a question of whose turn it is. We know that in pairs we are the best in the world, and we had we had the pool of death, as we called it. We were like, okay, there are only two teams that we kind of want to avoid having in our pool, and we got both of them. So we were challenged right from the start, and we had an incredible comeback against China in the pool play. So we played extremely well. In the second game, we still really needed to win. We won all our pool play games. Like, that was the plan. We executed that well. And then it was just that semifinal against Hong Kong that we had some things that we were able to later identify. But yeah, overall, if we look at our tracking statistics and everything, we did really well. And it really could have gone either way. When it comes to individuals, which happened right before pairs, I'm not going to lie, our sports structure is broken and needs to be changed. In no other sport that I can think of is it set up so number one in the world and number two in the world meet up in the quarterfinals. So to play a gold medal game in the quarterfinals and lose that way is ridiculous, and it's not right. I know we had presented this to our international federation many months ago, and they had said, yep, it's an issue, and that we'll look at it after Paris. So that just hurts even more because Lady Chica Chica and I were on the same level. Last 3 times I've beaten her, it was her time to beat me. Why did it have to be at the quarterfinals at the Paralympic Games is beyond me. So that one hurts because it was completely out of my control. But saying that, even through the difficult defeats, I feel like I was still on the court gracious and very sportsmanlike and congratulated my opponents. And that's what I wanted to come home feeling proud of, was despite what I was feeling on the inside, I wanted to be like, that's a gracious loser.
Okay, so I have an actual play question. I was at your individual match where you were facing Noor Matsalim from Malaysia, and I couldn't get down to the mix zone fast enough to say hello. But I wanted to know, there was one end where I believe you threw the jack, but the jack was thrown very, very shallow, and I believe it was on, if you're facing the court, the right side of the court.
Okay.
Do you remember this end at all?
Honestly, the minute I finish a game, I tend to forget
You
it.
don't.
But
Okay. Well, I wondered what the strategy was in throwing short, very, very, very shallow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's different strategies when it comes to who you're playing as your opponent, how you're feeling physically. It's a whole complex kind of decision type thing. Maybe you should have thrown a little bit further, but that's not really what made the difference in that game. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I just, because there was a beautiful shot, and I can't remember. I believe you did it where you like threaded 2 balls, and I was just like, oh man. It was really beautiful to watch. That I really enjoyed watching boccia in person because I was just mesmerized by all of the different. It was hard to have so many matches going on because I just wanted to pay attention to one.
Yeah.
But it was very, very mesmerizing to watch and see the strategy. It's kind of like watching curling, which I love watching as well.
Yeah.
I wondered, I don't know if you know, you had the longest match duration average of anyone in the individual tournament. Did you know that?
I did not know that. How did you know
Okay.
that?
We find things,
Yes,
Alison.
I was smart enough for the Paralympics. I was not smart enough for the Olympics to download the results books, and there's all kinds of stats in there. So
Mhm,
you had the longest match duration of anyone with 44 minutes an average per match.
mhm.
How does a long match affect you versus a shorter match?
I know why that happened, and it was because I had
Mhm.
one game that there was a very long interruption in the middle. So that bumped the average up. I'd say on average, my games are, I'd say they are pretty average normally. And I think that one game where there was, I think it was maybe like at least 12 minutes where we were just sitting around. And that was just our court too. So that probably bumped it up. But yeah, definitely. I mean, we can talk so long about problems in the sport and things trying to be fair for everyone, but I, in individuals, had a very, very, very rough pool. I would have been advantaged having gone into the tournament ranked third instead of second, but I'm not going to, at the competition prior, I'm not going to not go for the medal. That wouldn't be right, and it wouldn't be within the principles of true sports to not do well to get a better advantage seating wise. So when you do have a pool where there are no, I'm not going to say easy games, but there are no, normally when you're higher ranked, you're supposed to start off having a easier path to the finals. And those tend to be quicker games because your opponent is maybe less experienced, doesn't go on court much to see the situation, maybe throw their balls a little too quickly. When people start playing bocce, they tend to just like rocket their balls. Just boom, pick it up and throw, pick it up and throw. So maybe that's why it's a little bit longer as well. I also like to just take my time. I won't like wait for it to get down to 10 seconds or anything, but I will make sure that I take that extra second to take a deep breath and stretch out before each shot. So, yeah.
Does it differ for pools play? Because it was kind of interesting. In the mixed pairs, you had the same 44-minute match duration average, but it was
Mhm.
on the shorter side of the whole tournament. Those ranged from 40 to 57 minutes.
Yeah. Julian and I are very efficient in our communication. And I think that's why it goes pretty fast for us. Yeah.
So I saw your first mixed doubles with Yulian against China, and I was so struck with how the two of you communicated in comparison to some of the other teams and how fast it was. So
Mhm.
it's noticeably different than other teams. Do you notice how different it is? Do you realize it?
We do, yeah. We always say that kind of our chemistry on court and our communication and whatnot is one of our strengths when maybe it used to not be. But one of the big differences we see from us and other teams, and what we think is probably one of our strong points, is that it's not one athlete telling the other what to do or saying what they see, and then the other athlete saying what they see, and then deciding on a shot. Julian sees what I see, and I see what he sees. Like, through his eyes, and I already know what he's thinking, and he already knows what I'm thinking. And then we have each other's backs for when I have one of those moments where I just completely don't see the obvious shot, because that happens too. So it's kind of like we skipped that step of one athlete turning to the partner and being like, well, I have this shot, and then the other one going, well, I have that shot. We already know, and we know each other so well that I know which one Julian prefers. He knows what I'm going to want to go for. So we just kind of completely skipped that step of first analysis.
Was that something you worked on off the court?
Well, not directly. What we worked on mostly was our kind of, I wouldn't say trust, yeah, our trust of one another, our trust of ourselves, and more the things that were maybe holding us back, such as, oh, I don't know what he's thinking of me, or what if I don't do this shot, he's going to be disappointed. All those kind of intimate parts of having a teammate that you don't have individually, that was creating hesitation and creating even friction at times when you have misconceptions about what you think someone's thinking. And until we were able to work that out, now it's just kind of open, free conversation like you would almost with a family member, and that that there's no judging or anything like that.
When you have a disappointment like you had in that mixed doubles competition, how are you working that out together? Are you working it out separately and then coming back together? How is that working when you have two people sort of dealing with this hard thing together?
Yeah, it's pretty separate right now. There may be a time, probably when we start competing together, that it'll probably come to the surface. But Julian and I are two very different people and deal with things very, very, very differently. I cannot stress that enough. And this is one of those things that we talked, just him and I, through text, because that's how I work best. And we're both able to kind of express how we were doing. But we are both, we immediately were both doing so differently and are still doing so differently that it would be really hard to have kind of an open conversation about it without us not feeling, without us each feeling heard, because we're just not on the same, we take things very differently. So it's kind of hard to explain the dynamic, but like, I don't see it being beneficial to either of us to just talk about how we're feeling and be feeling two completely separate ways and feel like you don't understand or you don't understand, because we're not the same people. We're not in the same parts of our lives. We don't have the same challenges and whatnot, although we share very similar paths. They are very different. So it's more individually us processing. You know, Julian, I think the day after, he was already good. Well, oh, that's what he was showing externally, at least. You know, I'm sure that there is disappointment as well, but it's a very different kind of emotion and everything that comes along with the emotion from him than it is for me.
I did read an interview right before the Paralympics where you talked about when you first got together, you did not like each other.
It's not that we didn't like each other. It's that we couldn't see how our differences were going to become a strength. And it was just frustration. It was just, well, that's not the way that I think, so you're wrong, versus these are my values, you have different values, that's why you're thinking that way. It's nothing against me, that's just the way you function, and that's okay. Like in the past, having Julian be okay after a defeat would have hurt me, because to me it would have meant, no, you don't care, when I know that that's far from the truth. He does care. It's just a different level and it's just a different way than I do. So there's no animosity of me between me and him being like, oh, he doesn't care when we lost bronze at the Paralympics. Like, it's different, So yeah, at first it was very difficult to work those things. We also, there was the kind of deeper feeling of, oh, he's replacing Marco, who's like, my best friend and my mentor and all that stuff that I had to deal with as well. And coming to, realize that it's not it's nothing personal, and it's not, that's just the way sport is, and we have to do what's best for results and whatnot, and learn to love all the things that I didn't like about Julian at first, that now I'm able to just laugh and shrug it off, and like really doesn't affect me at all, when in the past I would take things personally. And yeah, it's been interesting, and I think him as well, learning to understand that I have different thoughts than him as well, and him learning to accept those as well. We still have times where I lock eyes with my coach when Julian's talking and talking and talking and trying to explain this and that, or we just look at each other and be like, deep breath, it's Julian. That's the way he is. He talks and he wants to explain and he wants to get into depth and he wants to this and that. And it's like, I asked a simple question, but I love him for it now, because that's Julian, and his capacity to see things and to go into depth like that has helped our game excel, and helps us when we strategize and plan and decide different things and whatnot. So it's a good mix. But yeah, it's funny thinking back to us at the beginning, and sometimes it's funny seeing us now too, because you can still see that we're very, very different, but it works.
On a happier note, what were some fun things and best parts of the Paris 2024 experience for you?
Simply, it was not Tokyo. Tokyo was the anti-Paralympics. Paris did everything wonderfully. There was only a few things that I say, okay, that didn't turn out the way they wanted to, or that wasn't great. But our venue, spectacular. Volunteers always make every single games, and this was no exception. The village was perfect. Food was great. Anyone who was complaining about all the little things, I don't know what competitions they normally go to in their sports, but I mean, it was above what most of the time we deal with. So just the joy in the village, and it's something absolutely remarkable that every single time, it's actually hard to describe, of being in a village of people with disabilities, and you're just fitting in, and everything is thought about accessibility and made to be accessible, and just to be surrounded by people that are just happy is just incredible, because we don't get that a lot in our society.
When you're in a village where all of the accessibility needs have been thought about and put into place, what kind of load does that take off of your mind in terms of thinking, how do I get from here to there, or things like that?
Oh, it's so much. It's not just stress that's lifted. It's like you don't feel pressured to figure things out yourself. You know that it's just going to be okay. And you know that, like, if there are a few things that maybe may not be super accessible, that they will have someone there to help you through it. And it's just such a time saver, to be able to take a shower and then go to bed within an hour, instead of it taking two, because you're in a really inaccessible hotel room and you have to do like 4 transfers to get to your shower bench and whatnot. Just the energy that it saves, the time that it saves, knowing that you're safe and you're at less risk of injury. And that, one of the biggest things is when we travel, and our risk of injury during travel and then while we're at competition is so much higher than our everyday lives, just because things are not set up for us. And then knowing that, oh, I'm going to be okay here, I'm not going to have that problem, is something that is just like, it's freeing for the mind.
You mentioned food. I want to ask about the very famous chocolate muffin.
Chocolate muffins.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us.
Okay, so at first, I'm not a huge chocolate lover. Like, I like chocolate, but I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, chocolate, I need chocolate, right? So I was like, okay, it's going to be a chocolate muffin. And like muffins for me, I'm like, take them or leave them, right? So I take a bite and I'm like, I get it. 10 on 10. This is an amazing muffin. This is not, it's chocolatey, but not overly chocolatey. It's not bitter, but it's not too sweet. It's fluffy and it's light, not like one of those like brick muffins. And I'm like, okay, 10 on 10 muffin, definitely great. And then I got to the fudge center and it immediately shot up to 1,000 out of 10. Like, that was just the muffin that kept on giving. And so, like, I limited myself to, like, I think I had 5 the whole time I was there, and I was there for 2.5 weeks. So not too bad. But is it sad to say I still think about them?
You and Mackenzie Cohen. Mackenzie Cohen had a similar.
Yeah. We were at Canadian Championships last week, and for lunch, for the dessert, they had some muffins there, and one was it looked very similar, and I took it, and I swear a tear like escaped. I was like, it's not the same, it'll never be the same. Yeah, it was really good.
I do want to ask you about your work with Lululemon and the clothing accessibility. How did that come to be, and what was that relationship like?
It was all Lululemon, and I give them full credit for it, because they wanted to make a uniform for everyone. And so they did what they actually had to do to make that happen, was to speak to the people that were going to be wearing it. A lot of companies, it's often just words of saying, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But to include anyone who wanted to provide any type of feedback for the design of how they were going to design these uniforms, they had that open, and anyone that was a potential for Paris was able to join in on these many focus groups that they had. And those of us that gave specific feedback, we were contacted again later on just to give more detail, and you can tell that they were actually researching. Like, they weren't just jotting things down, they were actually looking to see, okay, what can we do to make this the way it should be made. And yeah, I mean, they delivered. To be able to see a product that has something that you specifically requested to this huge company that you'd think, well, why would they care about the few disabled people? They're not going to end up making money on this adapted line, right? It's few and far between. It's not mass market, but they didn't care. They listened and they did it anyways. That to me is real inclusion. And just, I'm so proud to wear their stuff and keep bringing that up of being like, look, they did do this. They should, as every company should. But did they have to? Not to this extent, but they did anyways.
And when the Canadian uniforms were unveiled, you got to be a fashion model. How was that experience?
I was so out of my comfort zone, but in the best way. Like, I'm not a fashion person. I don't even buy clothes. Like, all my clothes are just old uniform. I'm like, well, why would I buy clothes? Like, they're given to me for free, right? But no, like, I never wear any makeup. I don't do my hair. I don't do anything. And to go and to have the full model experience of hair and makeup for like 2-3 days in a row and, having fittings and making sure everything was good. And to be, a person with a very, very visible physical disability in a motorized wheelchair, and to be someone that's plus size as well, to be able to be treated like every single athlete that was up there, Olympians. And, you had Phil Wizard who's doing his breakdancing on the runway, and then me just like rolling through and got the same, maybe not the same amount of applause, but hey, he did like spin on his head. Come on. And it was almost like they were thanking me for helping them when I wanted to be thanking them for helping me in a way. But yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And I was so like, you see the interviews that I do, and I'm like showing off the pockets that are on the shins that like I kind of brought up, and I'm just like beaming and sticking my hands in them, being like, look, I have pockets, like it was a great experience. And I hope in the future that they'll, reach out to me again so that I can continue to promote their stuff. Yeah.
Listen, every girl gets excited about good pockets.
Yes, right.
Were there other elements that you recommended that got put in?
Yeah. So like the seated carpenter pant pretty much was, she was calling them the Alison pant, because a lot of the things particular to that pant are what I suggested. One of them being the pockets on the shins, but the other one being the breathable wick-away material on the underside. So the whole back, bottom, and under the thighs is that really, sport material that the sweat just completely wicks away, which I always say as a wheelchair user, if you know, because wheelchair bum is a real thing. And, the loops inside so that we can pull them on and off ourselves. The lower cut in the front, but the higher cut in the back, so that when you lean forward, you're not showing off to the world. The magnetic zippers, those are all things that I said, look, not everyone with disability needs these, but it's a very common issue of the way pants fit and not having, it looked like it had a zipper and a button fly, but it didn't. It was all elastic, all those things that just blew my mind away that I have now to wear in my daily life too.
I hope they gave you enough kit to last for a while.
They gave us so much, like so much. And I am so grateful, because that's the thing with Lululemon too, is that their stuff is good quality. Like in the past, our uniform shirts have maybe lasted like 6 months to a year until the decals are falling off, and God forbid you put one in a dryer. This stuff is going to last, and we have so much of it too that like you're going to be seeing me like in 2028 being like, isn't that from 2024? And be like, yep.
Still looks new.
Yep.
So I have one quick question about the clothing along the lines of being in a village that's accessible. How much time does it save you to have accessible clothing?
Not only does it save me time, it saves my assistant time, because while she doesn't need to be helping me pull up my pants, she could be preparing other stuff. For those of us that have assistants, it's nice to be able to get back some independence for a bit. And just the comfort. And when we were talking about the accessibility, we were talking about that kind of burden on your mind of things being accessible and whatnot. Clothing is one of them, because as weird as it seems, clothing can be dangerous for people that can't shift their weight, like wrinkles and seams and all that cause problems. And we have to spend time doing checks of our skin to make sure that we don't have any pressure sores developing or material cutting into areas. So like just that alone, after a few days of being like, okay, these things seem to not have that issue, you don't have to anymore. So it's just a time saver. It's a relief on the brain, and it's nice to have some independence.
So, with our last couple minutes, what's next? What's looking forward for Alison Levine?
I don't want to stop playing bocce, so I'm going to continue playing bocce. If you ask me to look forward years down the road, I cannot. If you ask me to look 1 year down the road, I can't either. Because of the nature of my health, unfortunately, I don't have the privilege of making long-term plans. So for me, as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I'm going to continue doing it. And if that leads me to one competition or 10 competitions or all the way to Los Angeles, then that's what I'm going to do. But as for right now, it's, as always, one day at a time and just keep on doing it.
Excellent. Alison, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us and letting us know how Paris was. We're really sorry it was not a more fun outcome for you, but hearing the other parts and hearing what it's like to have that accessibility addressed and how important that is just really good for everybody to hear. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Alison. You can find Alison on X and Insta at Boccia-Alison, and her website is alisonlevine.ca. We will have links to all of those in the show notes.
Buongiorno.
I never know what you're going to say there. and it's a happy language.
You know what? It is a happy language, and I feel the spirit of my ancestors coming through me when I make the attempt, and they smile at me, and it makes me feel better.
There you go.
Though I'm not sure this would make them feel better.
The sliding novella?
The sliding novella, because once again, I feel like I should yell, "Sabotaggio!"
Well, we have not had any sabotage in the last week, which is good. We are recording a couple of days earlier than our normal record day, but on February 27th, the refrigeration plant for the sliding track was turned on, and they have started to ice the track. This is on time.
I think this may be the first time in all of Italian construction that something is delivered on time.
So they have been creating the surface. That's taking several days to do so. I'm sure there's probably layers and layers and layers of ice that they had to put on, and it takes quite a bit of time to get that initial track laid down correctly. They are prepping for the pre-homologation, which will take place on March 24th. Now, if you are an engineering or surface or chemistry geek, this will be the first time that a sliding track will be made with glycol. Glycol will be cooled in this refrigeration plant, then it's pumped along the track. There's 33 different pumping stations at various points along the track to regulate the temperature of specific sections. And then there are 77 different zones of the track based on the weather and the level of sunshine. So they can basically section off a piece of track that is getting more sun than others, and maybe that part of the track is melting. They can pump more glycol to that specific section. I think it's pretty cool.
This is the coolest point, though. This is the best part of the whole story.
The waste heat produced from the pumping process will be used to heat the buildings that are part of the sliding complex.
It's a green track.
It is a green. It's icy green. So we'll see how well this works. That's a lot of stuff to put together and in a short amount of time. So I'm curious to know how it is going along the way. Of course, we will keep an eye on it because there's nothing like a novella. We have a ticket sales update. There are 613,000 tickets sold so far. That is close to half of what's available for the Olympics. This includes tickets sold for hospitality packages and tickets purchased by stakeholders. The most in-demand sports have been hockey, biathlon, cross-country ski, and figure skating. Paralympic tickets go on sale March 6th. We have a little bit of International Olympic Committee news this week. The IOC has granted provisional recognition status to World Boxing. This is the alternative or breakaway international federation to the International Boxing Association, which the IOC had de-recognized because it had many problems.
Oh, you're being diplomatic today.
Well, this is the IOC news.
Yeah, it
Uh,
had many problems.
So many nations broke away from the IBA and formed their own federation. Now it meets IOC qualifications for international federation recognition. There's a laundry list of things they have to follow, but a lot of it is having members in many countries, many regions of the world. So this recognition is a big step towards boxing being put back on the program for LA 2028.
So yeah, to remind listeners, boxing right now is not happening in LA 28 according to the official program. So we will see how this looks in the months to come. Be interesting to see what the new president. I'm surprised a little bit that they did this before the new presidential elections, but it also feels like this is a little bit of a checklist thing. Like you have this number of federations, so now you've got to check. But we've still got a lot of ways to go before boxing gets back on that LA 28 program.
Yeah, and maybe how does that checklist coincide with the presidential race? Because do you leave that for a new president, or things just got to keep moving because you're looking at 3 years to go for LA soon, and they have to make some final decisions on the sports program at some point pretty soon so that competitors know whether or not they're going to have qualifications coming up. Good news for world boxing, not so good news for the IBA.
Oh, poor babies. They'll have to go back to the corner and spit in the bucket. You know how boxers go and sit in their corner? Yes. No sympathy for the IBA.
We also have some World Games news. I will work on getting World Games music, but for the first time in World Games history, there will be a torch and torch relay. The torch design is called Zhumeng Dream Chaser. It is inspired by the bamboo forest of Sichuan with green and silver arched sides to represent Chengdu's dedication to sustainability and innovation. There will be jade elements that represent purity and fairness in sport. The game's logo is on there, of course. The panda mascot is etched in there as well as a phoenix-shaped holy bird to embody the soaring aspirations of athletes striving for greatness. So there will be a torch relay. The press release is not very clear, but at the very least, it's going to be a one-day thing with 12 torchbearers, but it could go on longer. We don't know. But it's a really pretty torch.
It's beautiful. That green is that fantastic acid green that shows up so well in photographs.
Very classic. So another step for making the World Games more of a spectacle, I would say. We'll see how this goes for future games.
Welcome to Shukflastan.
Now it's the time of the show where we check in with our team Keep the Flame Alive. These are past guests and listeners of the show who make up the citizenship of our very own country of Shukflastan. First up,
Annika Malisinski placed 25th at the FIS Nordic World Ski Championships. In the mixed team event, she partnered with her brother Nicholas, Ben Loomis, and Alexa Bradback. The team finished 9th.
In the last ISU World Cup of the speed skating season, Erin Jackson won a bronze and silver in the 500-meter races, but she took the overall season title in the 500. This is the third consecutive title in this distance for Erin.
I wonder if this is going to be even more special to her because she struggled so much with her health at the beginning of the season. So this is a big deal that she came back so strong. And speaking of World Championships, the World Sliding Championships are this week, March 6th through 9th in Lake Placid. Bobsledders Bree Walker, Josh Williamson, and AJ Edelman, and skeleton slider Shannon Galea will all be competing.
Also competing is Steve Empt in the World Wheelchair Curling Championships this week through March 8th. We're taping this on Monday, and so far they are currently 2 wins and 3 losses and have played 5 games total, so they are tied for 8th so far. But there's still a long ways to go in this tournament. Do not count them out. There are 12 teams playing. 10 teams will be at Milan-Cortina 2026, including Italy as host. So Champs helps finalize the quotas for 2026.
And more babies in Shukflastan. Congratulations to BMX racer Elise Willoughby and her husband Sam, who announced they are expecting a baby this summer. So, as she said, she's going to be taking a little time off of racing.
excellent reason to do so. And that is going to do it for this episode. Let us know what you are looking forward to at the Milan-Cortina Paralympics.
And we do love hearing from you. You can chat with us and other listeners on our Facebook group, Keep the Flame Alive Podcast. Email us at flamealivepod@gmail.com. The voicemail and text line is always open at 208-352-6348. That's 208-FLAME-IT. And if you need more Olympics and Paralympics in your life, and who doesn't, sign up for our newsletter at flamealivepod.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Also, do not forget to sign up for our free Patreon offering at patreon.com/flamealivepod. Next week, we will be back with another installment of our history series on Sydney 2000, when Alison takes on all of the debacles from the artistic gymnastics competition. And there are many. Just say that. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep the flame alive.